Hello. I would like to talk about why I believe in aliens. Now, I've dealt with a lot of aliens, mostly Mexicans or Chinese, but we're talking about the space folks. And when I think it was 1984, so I must have been like 9. I didn't have a personal encounter, so to say. But what did happen was I was in school in a creative writing class, and I believe it was Pierce Park. I don't remember the teacher's name. I don't remember the other students' names. It was a pretty shitty, fucking worthless school if ever I'd been to one. And this teacher had decided that we should do a creative writing class. And I was very upset. I wasn't quite literate at the time, and I wasn't really until I was 30 years old, but that's a different story. But during the creative writing class, we were sitting in the class, and I was very angry, so I wrote up this really deranged story. And we'd have to stand up and present it to the entire class. And I wrote up the story about a half crocodile, gorilla, technicolored psychedelic thing that had no bones and would slither under my door into my room and then do this deranged dance while it changed colors into multi-flashing bright colors and then would bake pies made out of rhubarb and fetuses. And we would sit there, have a good time, and eat them until the demon in the closet came out of the closet, told him he was messing with the wrong people, and he didn't have a union card to mess with me, so we had to go back to hell with them in the closet. And the gorilla dial, or crocorilla, whatever it was, argues with them for a while about the politics in Indonesia, and then everyone goes back to their respective homelands. And the teacher's response to me was, oh, you have an interesting imagination, you straight bitch, blah, 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 blah. Same basic bullshit response to everyone. Some kid ripped off that early 80s cartoon about a kid who turns into a car. And there was a couple of just lame plagiarized stories of the teachers like, oh, you have such an amazing imagination, you should write books, blah, blah, blah. But there's one girl got up, I don't remember her name, gets up, real mousy girl. I remember some characteristics, real mousy, real quiet, kept to herself, real polite, very rigid, almost British with the mannerisms. Gets up, and you can tell in her mannerism that she's kind of freaking out. She's like a little panicky, a little upset, and yeah. What happens is she goes off into this speech where she's talking about the craft comes out of the sky, floats outside of her window. The people in the craft teleport into her room. They pick her up. She's floating. She gets carried out her window on a beam of light. She gets on the spacecraft, and they're about to perform experiments on her. And this teacher's behavior changes, where she just starts yelling at her, "You're just making this up. You're just making this up." Well, it's a creative writing class. What the fuck did you expect? You're just making, how dare you bring this up in my classroom? That's total fantasy. Nothing about that is real. You can go sit down. You get an F right away. Doesn't even let the kid finish her story. And you get an F. That's all fantasy. You're fucked up in the head. I'm like, wait a minute. You're yelling at her because that's fantasy, but the technicolored crocorilla or gorilla dial that bakes pies of rhubarb and fetuses, that is by comparison real? This lady is really not okay. And I thought about it, the kid freaked out, school had a problem, the kid went home for a week. I'm like, wow, these teachers seem terrified of whatever the fuck this story was. I mean, flip the fuck out. So I began to consider the fact that aliens might be real by the overreaction of society to what they believed was complete dimension fiction and just total made-up garbage. We're the majority of totally made-up garbage of people that were coming up with, no one said shit about. But that particular one was not okay. I know people that went off about ghosts, and no one said nothing except for, oh, they're real, they're not real, whatever, blah, 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 blah. I know people that went off about Bigfoot, no, it's real, it's not real, blah, 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 and whatever mysteries. But anytime aliens came up in Idaho for some reason, there was a lot of really, really staunch responses that were less no, you're insane. But anyway, that's just why I began to believe, not necessarily know that, but believe that these things were a possibility that was happening in our universe. Go the other man!